Drone warfare has transformed the Ukraine-Russia conflict, with massive swarms becoming a decisive factor in battles. Ukraine's innovative drone tactics have challenged Russia's defenses, while Russia's industrial production fuels its own aerial assaults. In 2025, a massive Ukrainian drone strike on Moscow sent shockwaves through the region, pushing the war to new heights of intensity. Below is the account of this confrontation, from a sudden aerial onslaught to its unforeseen global repercussions. On a stormy night in 2025, hundreds of Ukrainian drones surged toward Moscow, their engines humming like a swarm of angry bees, targeting key infrastructure in a coordinated blitz. Russian radars blared with alerts as the drones evaded initial defenses, slipping through gaps in the S-400 system. The sky darkened with the mass, and the first strikes hit power grids, igniting explosions that lit up the city like fireworks gone mad. Alarms wailed across Moscow, streets emptying in panic as debris rained down. The Kremlin went on red alert, but the sheer number overwhelmed, turning the capital into a cauldron of chaos ready to boil over. Russia's response was swift and furious. Su-57 jets scrambled from airbases, engaging the drone swarm in a deadly aerial ballet, missiles streaking through the night sky in blazing trails. Ground-based The battle plunged into cyberspace with lightning speed. Russian hackers launched a massive assault on Ukrainian command networks, disrupting drone controls and causing several to crash prematurely. Ukraine countered by infiltrating Russian power systems, blacking out entire districts and sowing confusion in defense commands. In the skies, AI-guided drones clashed, exploding in mid-air fireballs that illuminated the panic below. Hypersonic missiles from Russian silos targeted Ukrainian bases, but advanced intercepts turned them into streaking comets of failure. The war expanded as NATO allies jammed Russian signals, turning the conflict into a high-stakes digital duel where every second counted in a storm of fire and code. The drone assault ignited ground battles as Russian special forces hunted Ukrainian infiltrators suspected in Moscow. Streets erupted in firefights, with explosions shattering buildings and civilians fleeing in terror. Ukraine responded with precision strikes on Russian supply lines, turning highways into infernos of twisted metal. Chemical agents deployed by desperate Russian units contaminated neighborhoods, forcing evacuations amid choking smoke. Global economies trembled as oil prices skyrocketed from disrupted routes, and satellite feeds showed Moscow's iconic landmarks shrouded in flames. The capital became a labyrinth of destruction, with every alley a potential trap and the escalating nightmare. The strike's fallout triggered a global backlash, with international sanctions crippling Russia's economy and sparking internal revolts. Protests turned violent in St. Petersburg, leading to a military coup that ousted key leaders. Ukraine capitalized, launching ground offensives that reclaimed territory amid the chaos. Relief convoys flooded in, but insurgent groups rose from the rubble, turning former allies against each other. The crisis temporarily halted major hostilities, but new factions and lingering threats signaled an unstable future. As a journalist covering the ongoing Ukraine-Russia conflict, I've tracked the intense drone and armored warfare since Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022. Recent real-world reports highlight Ukraine's remarkable success in destroying Russian assets. In 2024 alone, Ukrainian forces neutralized over 3,000 Russian tanks using attack drones and other tactics, as noted by U.S. commanders. Massive Russian drone assaults like the August 2025 barrage of 574 drones and 40 missiles saw Ukraine downing 52 drones and losing 50 more through electronic warfare. Ukraine's counterstrikes, including one of its largest drone attacks on Russian airfields and oil depots, have turned the tide in key battles. Drawing from these actual events, I've crafted a fictional war scenario imagining a massive Russian assault met with devastating Ukrainian resistance, blending real geopolitical flashpoints with speculative escalation for dramatic effect. This is purely hypothetical, exploring the what if of turning an enemy's arsenal into a firestorm and the unforeseen consequences that follow. On a frozen dawn in 2025, Russia unleashed its most ambitious assault yet on Ukrainian defenses near Kharkiv, deploying 180 Shahed-style drones and 120 T-90 tanks in a coordinated blitz. Inspired by real massive drone attacks, such as the 2025 barrage of 574 drones in a single night, the swarm darkened the sky, targeting Ukrainian air defenses and supply lines. The tanks rumbled forward, their cannons pounding fortified positions, echoing real losses where Russia has seen over 3,000 tanks destroyed since the war began. Ukrainian radars lit up with alerts as electronic warfare units jammed signals, but the sheer volume overwhelmed initial responses. The battlefield trembled, setting the stage for a catastrophic turn. Ukrainian defenses sprang into action, transforming the Russian advance into a blazing inferno. FPV drones, akin to those in real footage where Ukrainian operators incinerated Russian tanks with thermite payloads, swarmed the armored columns. Precision strikes ignited fuel tanks, turning 120 Russian vehicles into a chain of explosions, their wreckage littering the frozen fields like undocumented catastrophic blasts. High-altitude interceptors and anti-air systems downed waves of drones, with 52 shot down outright and 50 more neutralized by electronic jamming, mirroring a real December 2024 attack where Ukraine downed over half of 110 incoming drones. The sky filled with fireballs as the Russian assault crumbled into a self-inflicted firestorm of debris and flames. The conflict escalated into cyberspace and the skies. Ukrainian cyber units, building on real successes like disrupting Russian communications, deployed AI viruses to hack drone swarms, causing them to malfunction and crash into their own tank formations. Russian hypersonic missiles retaliated, but Ukraine's mobile air defenses intercepted many, debris raining down like an actual strikes on air bases. Ukrainian fighter jets downed Russian Su-34s, reminiscent of real drone strikes on Borisoglavsk airbase targeting fuel and warehouses. The firestorm intensified as electronic warfare blinded radars, turning the front line into a chaotic blaze of misdirected fire and exploding munitions. The firestorm spread, drawing in reinforcements and escalating into multi-front chaos. Russian artillery pounded relentlessly, but Ukraine's HIMARS systems, proven in real operations destroying Russian tanks, unleashed precision barrages, obliterating supply depots and turning armored advances into smoldering ruins. Neighbor targeting refineries and power stations. International borders tensed, with Allied forces scrambling jets as the conflict threatened spillover, echoing real fears of escalation amid Russia's battlefield losses, including. In an unexpected turn, an international coalition of neutral European and Asian nations deployed a peacekeeping force to the conflict zone, using warships and surveillance drones to establish a buffer zone near Kharkiv. Air and ground patrol robots, equipped with AI sensors, sealed off Russian supply routes, halting further drone attacks. Ukrainian airstrikes on Russian bases tapered off as the coalition opened safe corridors for humanitarian aid, delivering food and medicine to besieged cities. Though hostilities paused, the battlefield remained littered with tank wrecks and drone debris, and underground insurgent groups began regrouping. Russia's firestorm was extinguished, but the international intervention left an unstable region with new plots simmering beneath the surface, foreshadowing future conflicts. Tensions between the U.S. and Iran have escalated over years of maritime confrontations in the Persian Gulf. U.S. freedom of navigation operations often provoke disputes, while Iran asserts its claims with aggressive maneuvers, like speedboat swarms and missile threats. A secret Iranian invasion fleet at the end of 2024 pushed the region to the brink, triggering a swift U.S. response that altered the global balance. Below is the account of this conflict, from a covert maritime incursion to its fiery oceanic conclusion. On a moonless night in 2025, Iran launched a covert invasion fleet from its ports in the Persian Gulf,
aiming to seize key oil platforms near the Strait of Hormuz. The armada included stealth submarines and fast attack boats loaded with missiles, slipping through international waters under radar evasion. Warnings from Iranian vessels to U.S. patrols echoed Tehran's sovereignty claims, but the fleet pressed on, targeting strategic choke points. The atmosphere grew tense as radars detected anomalies, and suddenly, Iranian boats swarmed a U.S. destroyer, forcing evasive actions. The waters around the disputed platforms became a powder keg, ready to ignite.
The invasion fleet's advance triggered U.S. surveillance systems, with satellites and underwater sensors picking up the submarine signatures. Drones deployed from a nearby U.S. carrier scanned the seas, disrupting Iranian communications with sonar pings. Fires erupted on several Iranian vessels as initial clashes unfolded, alarms blaring across the fleet. U.S. ships fired warning shots, but Iran misinterpreted this as aggression, launching anti-ship drones. The American destroyer activated close-range defenses, downing several drones, but remaining missiles rocked the waves. The turbulent seas witnessed continuous explosions, transforming the area into a raging battlefield.
The conflict spread to cyberspace and the air. Viruses targeted Iranian navigation systems, while U.S. countermeasures jammed the fleet's radar. In the skies, fighter jets from a U.S. carrier clashed with Iranian aircraft in intense dogfights. Hypersonic missiles streaked toward the U.S. destroyer, but advanced defenses intercepted most, debris raining into the sea. The battle expanded as Allied forces from a neighboring nation joined with patrol boats, turning the invasion zone into a multinational flashpoint where explosions and black smoke shrouded the sky. The conflict escalated uncontrollably as Iran fired ballistic missiles at U.S. bases in the Gulf. The U.S. retaliated with strikes on Iranian command centers along the coast. Cruise missiles launched from U.S. submarines destroyed these facilities, shaking regional power dynamics. Smoke rose from the ruined sites, causing panic in nearby cities. Iran's allies responded with attacks on U.S. assets in the Middle East, while U.S. carriers deployed defensive formations in the Gulf. Global economies reeled as oil routes halted, and satellite imagery revealed vast areas engulfed in smoke. The rapid destruction of the invasion fleet triggered unforeseen geopolitical shifts. Radioactive leaks from damaged Iranian submarines contaminated Gulf waters, forcing regional nations to form emergency alliances for cleanup. Autonomous robot teams cleared debris, while international relief ships delivered supplies to affected areas. The U.S. and Iran, facing mutual devastation, halted military actions to focus on recovery. But the battlefield remained littered with wreckage, with insurgent groups exploiting the chaos to rise. The crisis temporarily curbed the war, but new alliances and lingering threats signaled an unstable future. Tensions between Ukraine and Russia have escalated as North Korea sent reinforcements, supplying troops and weapons to bolster Russia's prolonged war. Ukraine's intelligence operations closely monitored these movements, but in 2025, a lightning Ukrainian strike against North Korean forces pushed the conflict to new heights, shocking the world. Below is the account of this confrontation, from a swift annihilation to an unexpected outcome that left everyone reeling. On a chilly afternoon in 2025, along a border route near Luhansk, a North Korean reinforcement convoy, 500 soldiers and tanks, moved covertly to support Russia. Ukrainian radars detected the target, and a squadron of attack drones swooped in at breakneck speed. In just 91 seconds, the drones unleashed guided missiles, obliterating the entire convoy before it could react. Tanks erupted like fireworks, North Korean soldiers scattered in flames and smoke. Debris flew in all directions, and the border area trembled. The strike turned the frontier into a fiery hell, setting the stage for a ferocious retaliation. The annihilation triggered an immediate response from North Korea.
From Pyongyang, they launched a barrage of ballistic missiles targeting Ukrainian cities, rocking Kyiv with devastating explosions. Russian forces coordinated, pounding Ukrainian positions near the border with relentless artillery. Ukraine retaliated with rapid airstrikes on Russian bases in Crimea, where North Korean weapons were stored. An air battle erupted, with Ukrainian fighters clashing with Russian Su-35s in deadly pursuits. Black smoke choked the sky, continuous explosions shaking the ground, transforming the region into a chaotic battlefield where every minute was fraught with peril.
The conflict surged into cyberspace with dizzying speed. North Korean hackers targeted Ukraine's command systems, disrupting communications and scrambling attack drones. Ukraine countered by crippling Russian and North Korean military networks, using viruses to seize missile systems. In the skies, drones from both sides collided in massive swarms, turning the air into a storm of fire. Hypersonic missiles streaked through, Ukraine's air defenses intercepting most, but debris raining down like a meteor shower, sparking widespread fires. The war expanded as NATO allies supplied Ukraine with weapons, turning the border into a multinational flashpoint where smoke and flames obscured everything.
The conflict spiraled when North Korea deployed biological weapons, releasing toxic gas into Ukrainian positions, causing mass poisoning. Ukraine bonded with lightning strikes on North Korean bases near the Russian border, using guided missiles to destroy targets from afar. Flames and smoke billowed from the ruined bases, sparking panic in nearby cities. Russia coordinated with ballistic missile attacks on NATO bases in Poland, while Ukraine deployed special forces to demolish biological weapon stockpiles. The global economy reeled as transport routes collapsed, and satellite imagery showed vast regions shrouded in smoke and dust, marking a brutal phase of warfare.
The strike's fallout triggered internal collapse in Russia and North Korea. Protests erupted in Moscow as citizens raged over losses, leading to clashes between security forces and civilians. In Pyongyang, disgruntled generals overthrew commanders, plunging the military into chaos. Neighboring nations scrambled to contain the fallout, with international task forces hunting remaining biological weapons. Autonomous robots were deployed to decontaminate affected areas, while relief convoys delivered medicine to ravaged cities. North Korea and Ukraine paused actions to exploit the chaos, but the battlefield remained littered with wreckage, with insurgent groups rising. The collapse temporarily halted the war, but new tensions and lingering internal threats signaled an unstable future.